Watch our curiosity burn out like 1990s sparklers. Watch the paralyzing paranoia of each high school scholar. Watch our teachers growing shorter. Wait, are we just getting taller? Watch us wear our rash with pride beneath the starch of our first collar. Watch, but you cannot, for your eyes too are growing darker. Pupils stained blue with the ink of every marker, for blindness is a virtue of the academic worker. I've been writing this poem for 13 years. In the margins of every binder paper outside the lines, and black ink on the backs of hands and every weary whine, in the tired tongue of every teen who said that he was fine when inside, still paralyzed, he hoped that everyone could see him lying. Was that grunt and that sigh really sufficiently expressive, or is it hard to express in the repressed context of a school desk when expression is transgression and socializing us sin? Did every faint frown mean we were all manic depressive? Was that curse word and a fine really sufficiently expressive? Is breathing in a graveyard really this impressive? This is not an objection. It's just, excuse me while I equate all adolescents with poets, undomesticated and awkward. And we are all poets, aren't we? For they forced us to write poetry in English class. All of us, all of we are poets. And adolescence is the age at which we all agree that we are old enough to start dying. Poets, vivaciously dying and writing and thinking and writhing, all of us in this very mortal column, concrete system of variable permutation served out on whiteboards of smelly ink, toxic fumes, and erasable ideologies. And it's not just the poems, that's synecdoche. It's every trait scraped away by narrow education and hazing into the fraternity of society. Watch poets suit up, tied up, collars up, displayed, throwing their poems all away, and instead filling the fridge space with any math test with an A. Did they intend for us to apprehend only how to obey? Watch once poets hold up in the iron jaws of expectations, all their rhythms at a pause, hearts bleeding on their corsage. No thing can harm a child's will when he don't know it's mirage. But this is not a metaphor. Is the last generation done growing so soon? Frozen over like icicles on the ceiling of some melting ice cavern, dripping onto we thirsty snowbanks, shaping us by their cadavers, imparting upon us the scraps of advice they picked up after every war they waged. It seems it's easier to teach us than it is to learn with age. So who now can claim that we are not their shadows? Who claim direction in the ubiquitous storm of the state of the utterly lost? Who seek shelter from the rain under the arm of the cross, who coil up in their disdain when they are from good graces tossed, who expedite their expeditions to the poverty-stricken lots, who measure strength solely by height and never think of width and cross, who now can claim that we are not on them embossed, just their decor for nothing more than covering their fucking costs. But we've made it this far by rewiring our impulses into society's circuit boards, by slowing down our pulses until it from nature divorces, until it falls in line with beeps divided from organic sources, until society advances to just corpses teaching corpses. This isn't a prophecy. It's just, how do the living get a job in a graveyard? I guess there's got to be an undertaker. But how does a poet get a job? How do the risers ever fall? And in the sweat of Sunday night, how do we ever sleep at all? When from the black and white garage, we hear the mountains start to call. Are we just marker on the stall? It's all a poem after all. And are we not drafting a bill when we spray letters on the wall? How does a poet get a job? How does their highway always hum? And if I am to beat my heart, how will I ever beat their drum? This is not a question. I, all curfewed and red-cupped, tear every page to the floor and ask the old senator, ain't the Bible just poems when the cover's torn up? That's the joke. The glaring middle finger, that we strip away poetics, or rather bury them beneath the definition of relevance, but we swear by our hand on a poem. Isn't it the heart of every policy, the point of every lesson, and the pen at every whiteboard, the Puritans' poetics, and the cracked skeleton of every businessman's successes, stuffed into a suit by puritanical values derived from biblical commandments written and scattered, syntactical, lyrical verse? Do not the men who write the priorities of society do so unconsciously under the omnipresent rule of that which they so categorically disregard? We were born of a poem, of crayons, of questions, of nonlinear time perception, of disbelief, of colors, of religious intervention. Then we were cast through maturation, Now we wander blindly about, just poetical tentacles sniffing the poems out. But still, watch naked, youthful poets expectantly try on their first suits like an ill-fitted little girl in a costume princess gown, parents giving them the thumbs up. Watch them hope and frown, for they were never told that the more gold you hold, the faster you drown. This is not a cry of revolution, it's an elegy. Here's to all you poets who fell converted, to all divergent thinking averted by the strict blade of maturation. This is your elegy, and those who made it out alive shall mourn your memory.